Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing on with quote love unquote by New Amsterdam, and today's chapter is chapter 14. It's the first time in a week that Bakugou doesn't have a hellishly early call time, and he isn't even happy about that. Waking up without having somewhere to be, something to do, gives him too much time to think. And that's something he's been avoiding for 6 weeks now. And longer, but he really won't let himself dwell on that. The apartment he's been staying in is comfortable, but it's blank. There are no personal touches, no comforting reminders of anything or anyone. He can't stay here for any amount of time, because it drives him fucking nuts with its emptiness. He pulls on his running shorts and sneakers, glancing out the window. He sees the sun barely rising over the horizon, dyeing the ocean around the island of vivid crimson. He scowls at the color, shoves his headphones into his ears, and heads out the door. As he starts running in a parallel line to the ocean, an old song croons at him through his earbuds. The voice is soft, tentative, but the message is clear. He's been listening to it on and off for years now. Love isn't a muscle. It doesn't grow weaker when it isn't used. It doesn't decay when you can't move it for some time. Love is like breathing. It's involuntary. Even when you've been drowning, the moment you hit the surface, you'll breathe it in. Your body will respond before you can think, gasping for air. You'll pull it into your lungs for all you're worth, and you'll be surrounded by love. And it won't be distant or foreign anymore. You'll know what to do. He listens to the song on repeat as he runs along the ocean. As the mild winter wind blows across his skin and the slowly rising sun tinges the world around him, the colors of a blazing fire, he runs and tries to push past everything that's weighing him down. But his every thought, his every emotion, pulls against his muscles until he's gritting his teeth and nearly screaming as he climbs to the top of a hill overlooking the beach. He flops down onto the ground, pulls out his earbuds as he pants heavily. He rolls over and pulls himself up into a seated position, bracing himself against his knees as he stares out at the horizon. The sky is a furious red, and Bakugou stares out at the color, and his entire body aches. "Fuck!" he growls, wishing there was something around for him to take his anger out on. But there's only the cloudy sky, the clear ocean, and the wind whistling through the grass. Everything is perfect and beautiful, and he hates it. He hates it, and he misses Kirishima more than he'd ever thought possible. Time passes. Bakugou pushes open the door to his apartment and sees Sero waiting for him, sitting at the kitchen island like he owns the entire damn apartment. Bakugou throws him a particularly filthy glare before grabbing himself a bottle of orange juice out of the fridge and drinking straight from it. "You can't always blame your bad moods on me, you know," Sero tells him. He's dressed for a day on set, in pressed slacks and a pale blue polo shirt. His stupidly expensive sunglasses are pushed back into his hair, and he's wearing that fancy watch that Bakugou got for him for his birthday 2 years ago. Everything about him says, yes, I'm young, but if you don't take me seriously, you'll regret it. Everything, that is, except for the stupid smile on his stupid face. "Fucking watch me," Bakugou mutters, wiping off his mouth with the back of his wrist. Despite his attitude, he pulls out the chair next to Sero and sits himself down on it. Sero lifts his brows, looking at Bakugou with disbelief. "Dude, seriously, you could just call him, you know?" Bakugou hates the idea of being so transparent. But with Sero, there's not much he can do about it. The fucker knows things, and Bakugou can't take those pieces of knowledge back any more than he could actually fire Sero. It leaves him trapped with a person who is entirely unintimidated by him, which means he has to play dirty. "Oh yeah?" he challenges. "How'd it go then, when you called Raccoon Eyes?" Sero's cheeks heat, and he waves his hand in front of his face, because of course he hasn't called Ashido. He's not going to call Ashido, because he's a damn coward. It's not the same for Bakugou and Kirishima. It's never been the same. You know it's not the same thing, Sero protests. If I call Ashido, it's going to make things worse. You're not calling Kirishima because you're too scared to be happy. Bakugou lunges without conscious thought, shoving Sero off his kitchen chair and onto the floor. Sero lets out an undignified yelp, and Bakugou leans back against the counter with his lips pursed into a straight line.
You were saying,
he says as Sero gets to his feet and then back into his seat. Sero shakes his head. He sang a song for you, he says quietly. Bakugou snorts out a laugh.
She sang a song for you, dumbass. He just helped because he's a sucker for his fucking friends.
Ashido doesn't write songs, Sero reminds him. You've got to know that. And forget the song. What about the rest of it? Why'd you just walk away? Bakugou pins his agent/manager with a livid gaze.
There's a small list of things I'll take your shit about, Sero, and this is nowhere near on it.
Sero doesn't back down, just frowns at Bakugou and crosses his arms over his chest. He doesn't know when he let his life get this tangled up, this whole thing with Kirishima, and Kirishima knowing Sero, and Sero being hung up on Ashido, and Ashido being in Kirishima's band. Everything is so convoluted at this point, it's like a minefield. If he approaches just one part of it, the entire thing will blow up in his face. He runs a hand over his face, scowling at himself. This is the exact reason he's avoided all this shit for so long.
Lose the attitude,
he snaps.
We've got to get to work.
Time passes. He's just gotten through hair and makeup when he spots an unwelcome figure striding towards him. Bakugou doesn't bother hiding the scowl that deepens on his face, and he glances at a woman with a shock of green hair and an obnoxiously wide smile. Oh, Bakugou-kun, Fukukado Emi chirps at him. What's got you so angry today, huh? How can we turn that frown upside down?
None of your business,
Bakugou grumbles, which probably isn't the best thing to say to the movie's scriptwriter. He'll never understand how Fukukado, who doesn't appear to have a serious bone in her body, wrote the heart-wrenching drama he's currently filming. But he doesn't understand much of anything these days. Come on now, Fukukado says, slinging an arm over Bakugou's shoulders. She's not a large woman, but she's got an immense presence. Plus she's loud. Tell me about it. I'm sure it'll cheer you up.
I'm sure it won't.
Bakugou bites at the inside of his cheek. He's never gotten the inclination this industry has to form Ormset families. He doesn't want Fukukado to mother him, or to even try to be his friend. All he wants is to do his job, do it well, and then go home and never talk to any of these people ever again. Thankfully, Fukukado doesn't push the point. The two of them arrive on set together, but Bakugou pulls away from her as soon as he's able to take a seat and wait for his call. Unfortunately, there's another fly buzzing around this morning. Yo, Bakugou, a falsely cheerful voice says. A shadow falls over Bakugou, blocking out the sun and his view of the clear blue ocean. He doesn't look up and just stares resolutely forward as he says,
Fuck off.
Shindo Yu chuckles as he takes his seat next to Bakugou's. Like Bakugou, he's already been through wardrobe and makeup for the morning. After the first few days of filming, the crew had learned not to have them in their makeup chairs at the same time. It's impossible to do Bakugou's face when he's scowling that hard. Shindo is left looking impeccable, almost too perfect, in his short-sleeve button-down shirt and dark board shorts. Oh, you're in a bad mood today, Shindo comments, smile never leaving his face. There's a touch of red-pink gloss over his lips. He's just enough taller than Bakugou for the difference to be noticeable, and with his dark hair and open expression, he stands in direct contrast to everything Bakugou is.
Is being around a fake asshole like you supposed to put me in a good mood?
Bakugou demands, unwilling to uncross his arms over his chest. Shindo shrugs, utterly unbothered. I don't know. I thought we'd have some cute behind-the-scenes banter to tease everyone with before the movie comes out. You know, co-stars who become incurable pranksters or darlings on set. It'd be fun, you know. Bakugou stares Shindo down, unblinking.
You're out of your goddamn mind.
Time passes. Bakugou has just fumbled his lines for the third time when Aizawa calls cut and lets out a frustrated hiss. Shindo still has his hands at Bakugou's waist, fingers flexing as he no doubt jeers at Bakugou's mistake. The morning's cloud cover is gone, leaving Bakugou unheated and uncomfortable. He growls, pulling out of Shindo's grip, pushing him away unceremoniously. It was supposed to be a sweet scene, the two of them fighting and then flirting by the ocean. Bakugou's character stalked away, embarrassed, and then Shindo pulled him back with his hand around Bakugou's wrist. They ended up pressed close together, Shindo holding onto Bakugou, minutes away from their first kiss. From over the camera, Aizawa pinches the bridge of his nose. He gestures blandly at Shindo, but addresses Bakugou.
Let's review. This is the person you're currently falling in love with. Stop looking like you're about to clock him.
Bakugou sends Shindo a sideways glare, even though he knows Shindo isn't the problem. Fuck. He's spent the majority of his career pretending to fall in love with women. Compared to that, this should come more naturally to him, shouldn't it? In any case, he's a goddamn actor. None of this should be this hard. He should just disappear into the role and forget his own feelings entirely. What's wrong with him?
Well,
Aizawa prompts. Despite the blazing sun overhead, he's dressed in his customary black. His long hair is pulled back into a knot at the nape of his neck. Over the past few weeks, Bakugou's grown accustomed to the fierce focus of his eyes underneath jaggedly cut hair and tired lines of his face. He thinks he respects Aizawa, likes him even, in some distant way he's not quite ready to admit to. But right now, with Aizawa looking at him and Shindo being smug beside him and Fukakato standing back on set, laughing for some goddamn reason, Bakugou lets out a frustrated noise, hands clenched at his sides.
I don't need your ego,
Aizawa says.
I need your emotion.
Bakugou deliberately uncurls his fingers, but there's tension running down every line of his body. And he's hyper-aware of the fact that every person on set has their eyes trained on him. He's suffocating under the weight of their gazes.
I need a break,
he snaps. Without waiting for permission, he stalks off set and towards his trailer. Time passes. Some well-meaning production assistant has left him a fruit basket and a stack of glossy new magazines. Bakugou shoves them off the low table, grinding his teeth as apples and mangoes roll across the floor. He's about to throw himself down on the couch when the cover of one of the magazines catches his eye. The background of the image is a soft white, and in the foreground of the image are two men standing back to back and staring out at the viewer. One of them is tall and lean, with dark hair hanging in his eyes, and his hands are resting on a sleek guitar. But Bakugou barely registers Amajiki Tamaki's face, because the person he's standing next to is so much more important. Kirishima is dressed in a black sleeveless hoodie, his Riot tattoo a bright red against his bare skin. His teeth flash as he grins out at the camera, expression open and joyful and mischievous. His hands are curled around a microphone. Bakugou hasn't seen him in almost 2 months, since he left him at Present Mike's after party. He hasn't seen that smile or that stupid red hair or those muscled arms. He hasn't heard Kirishima's voice or felt the touch of his fingers or... He throws the magazine down onto the couch, but because the universe fucking hates him, it flops open to the feature article. which means Bakugou is greeted with a page full of snapshots of Riot and Sun Eater on stage and behind the scenes, smiling and singing and laughing and dancing and
Fuck you!
Bakugou snaps at the magazine.
Fuck you! I don't want to see how happy he is. I already goddamn know!
But because he's determined to pick at this scab until it starts to bleed, Bakugou reaches down and picks up the magazine, eyes darting over the text of the article and its interview with everyone's newest crush, Riot guitarist and lyricist Kirishima Eijirou. The interview is useless fluff, but Bakugou can hear Kirishima's voice in his answers, his bashful laughter and genuine enthusiasm. 3/4 of the way down the page, however, Bakugou pauses. Interviewer: So, Kirishima-kun, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Kirishima: Elephant? I'm not sure what you mean. Interviewer: Don't be coy now. A few weeks ago, you and Bakugou Katsuki were getting cozy in local diners, and now there's no news of you two at all. What's the story there? Kirishima: Maybe you could tell me. Sometimes these magazines have the story before I do. Interviewer: Now I know that isn't true. You both took a big risk coming out into the public with your relationship. We just want to know, what's next for Bakugou and Kirishima? Kirishima: Well, you know what's next for me. I'm on this tour, and I'm having the time of my life with Sun Eater. As for Bakugou, keep an eye out. He's always got a few projects cooking. Interviewer: You know that's not what I meant. What's next for the two of you, together? Kirishima: That would be telling you a lot. You'll just have to wait and see, but he's working hard right now, and I know he's doing his best, just like I am. I'm sending him all the luck I can. Interviewer: Just luck? Kirishima: Who knows? Interviewer: Well, here's hoping we get to see more pictures of the two of you together soon. Bakugou doesn't read the rest of the interview. It ends with a snapshot of Kirishima backstage at one of Riot's shows. He's sitting up, his blue shirt unbuttoned halfway down his chest. His smile is lax and easy, softer and smaller than usual, almost wistful. This is better, Bakugou tries to remind himself. If Kirishima is on the cover of magazines and giving exclusive interviews, then Riot is getting where it deserves to be. Nothing is holding them back, and soon Bakugou will become a footnote in their story. Every cell in his body rebels at the thought. He's no one's footnote, no one's path to fame, and nothing more. He should be the singular event of Kirishima's life, not something he can pick up and move on from with so little fanfare. Kirishima should be as miserable as he is, damn it. But he's already made Kirishima miserable enough, hasn't he? Because seeing Kirishima crying on President Mike's balcony all those weeks ago had given him no satisfaction. These smiles in these photographs, genuine and bright, they're much better than the alternative. Kirishima is out there doing his best, reaching for the stars, and what is Bakugou doing? Fucking up the one thing he's always wanted. Time passes.
Okay, let's try this again,
Aizawa says, in a tone of voice that indicates he'd rather be doing anything else. By the time Bakugou had made it back to set, the sun had shifted enough that picking up his scene with Shindo had been impossible. Instead, they'd shifted to an indoor set, to a scene that Bakugou acts in alone. The lights are dim, and a rain effect is in progress, a gentle rhythm rolling over the set.
You just found out he's been lying to you,
Aizawa says, setting the scene before they begin.
Everything you thought you knew about him, everything you were falling in love with, that was a lie. You know, and you've just left him standing out in the rain. And now you're trying to figure out how you feel and what you need to do.
Bakugou's face is impassive as he listens to Aizawa's words. Of course, he knows all of this already. He's memorized the script, knows it backwards and forwards. His shameful performance from this morning is made all the worse for the fact that Bakugou knows this story, chose this story, and he wants to portray it as best as he possibly can. He doesn't need Aizawa to remind him of all of this.
"You're losing him,"
Aizawa says.
"Maybe you never had him to begin with. All you feel is the crushing emptiness that comes when he isn't there. And now you can't move forward."
When Aizawa stops speaking, Bakugou takes his place on set. It's the entryway of his character's apartment, and he strides through the front door and slams it with a deafening thud behind him. He's soaked through, his hair plastered against his brow and the back of his neck, and his shirt weighed down. Before this, they'd been out in the rain, and he'd been the one to walk away. As the door closes, Bakugou sinks to his knees. The cold of the rain gets under his skin, into his very bones. He's shaking, staring straight ahead without seeing. Aizawa's earlier words echo in his mind. Everything you knew about him, everything you were falling in love with, that was a lie. You're losing him. Maybe you never had him to start with. He doesn't know when the tears start, only that they're hot and angry compared to the cold hollowness of the rain. These are not pretty performer's tears. His eyes ache with them, his throat closing over as he gasps for breath. He hugs himself around his knees, finally pulling his head down so that he's no longer looking straight at the camera. What does he want in that moment? For something to quiet the hurricane of emotions tearing its way through him. For someone to hold him together until the storm subsides. For everything to make sense so that he'd have something to hold on to. Fuck, fuck, fuck. He knows what he wants. He couldn't admit it to himself before, but now it seems obvious. And he isn't his character, and he isn't thinking about Shindo Yu. He imagines a kind face, a warm smile. He wants Kirishima back. A sob that rips its way out of him is harsh and discordant. From somewhere around him, the gentle of simulated rain slows and then ends.
"Cut,"
Aizawa says, taken aback. A silence settles over the set, eerie considering just how many people are present there. And when Bakugou looks up, everyone is staring at him. Aizawa, with perceptive and considering eyes. Shindo, standing back with his mouth slightly agape. Fukukado, for once not laughing, one hand against her chin. And behind them, the other actors and production assistants and cameramen and makeup team and set crew and everyone else, all staring, all looking at Bakugou with something like awe. Shindo is the first person to start clapping, but his applause is eclipsed by everyone else's within a moment. All of them staring at Bakugou and offering him a standing ovation for the performance, for the emotion he'd just given. Time passes. The thing of it is, Bakugou doesn't even like bars. Growing up as a child actor determined not to become a cliché, he'd turned up his nose to the use of alcohol as a coping mechanism. But he isn't a child any longer, and when his work is directly related to the issue he's trying to avoid, he doesn't have many other options. They're living in a resort town on a remote island while they film the movie, so there aren't many places to go. Thankfully, it's the off-season, so he doesn't get crowded by the unwelcome attention of fans and gawkers. Instead, he sits at the bar and orders a beer, staring at it for a long moment instead of drinking it. "Wow, I can't believe it," an annoyingly familiar voice says. "Bakugou Katsuki in the flesh." He barely flicks his gaze upwards to see Shindo, standing over him with his hands braced on his hips. He's out of costume now, and he's dressed in black jeans and a tight white t-shirt. His black hair is windswept, and he looks down at Bakugou with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Bakugou is suddenly sure that there's no one on Earth he hates more than Shindo, other than fucking Deku. But Shindo's closer at hand, if he gives into the urge to commit a murder tonight.
"What the hell are you doing here?"
He bites out, one hand still curved around his sweating bottle of beer. "Looking for a little excitement," Shindo says with a shrug, sitting down on the stool next to Bakugou, despite Bakugou's warning growl. It's not my fault you picked the best bar in town to hang out in, you know. Everything is his fault, Bakugou wants to say, but he knows that's not true even if Shindo is currently the focus of all his surface anger.
Then pick somewhere else.
Bakugou snaps at him. On reflex, he takes a sip of his beer, the taste foreign and sharp on his tongue.
Go find some other hellhole to get lost in.
Shindo just smirks at him, lifting a hand to signal the bartender. After he's ordered, he turns back to Bakugou. You know, I really do want to be your friend. Bakugou's glare goes from furious to incredulous.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, Shindo says empathetically. I really mean that. I admire you a lot, you know. It's a dream come true to be working alongside a UA alum. And that performance today, well, that was just more proof of your strong heart, wasn't it?
You're full of shit.
Bakugou turns his head away. He just wanted some time to himself, alone. He should have stayed home in his apartment, told Sero to go out and buy him some drinks if he wanted to take the edge off tonight. But instead, he's here. And if he makes a scene with Shindo, someone is bound to notice. Everything in his life, someone notices. Nothing is private or sacred. Shindo sighs, but there's something indulgent and patronizing about the way he does so. He leans back against the bar, sipping at his own drink. Please don't screw up this movie for me, Bakugou. He's as slippery as an eel, and that's only one of the reasons that Bakugou can't stand him. It's hard to get a read on Shindo, hard to figure out what game he's playing.
I could say the same fucking thing to you, asshole.
Despite his blunders earlier in the day, Bakugou is the last person to ruin a movie. His very presence elevates the entire thing, damn it. Shindo hums thoughtfully. Could you, though? This is really important to me. Bakugou's not about to admit to this piece of shit how important this movie is to him, too. Shindo doesn't deserve to know that, doesn't deserve to have Bakugou opening up that vulnerable part of himself. So instead, he just lifts his chin and juts out,
Yeah, I could. Shut up about it.
Shindo lets out another one of those thoughtful hums, and the next thing Bakugou knows, Shindo is leaning into his space, their faces too close for comfort. If that's so, Shindo says, and his breath ghosts across Bakugou's face, then you should really start selling it better, you know? His brain short-circuits. Shindo is too close to him, and Bakugou, for the first time in his life, is frozen. This isn't the controlled atmosphere of a movie set where Bakugou knows exactly what Shindo's about to do. Instead, this fucker is too damn close, and Bakugou can't read the intent in those dark eyes. Shindo smiles slowly, like a lioness about to pounce at unsuspecting prey. And in that moment, Bakugou thinks, is Shindo attractive? He's a goddamn movie star, with eyes like night stars and a sharply cut jaw. Bakugou's done enough shirtless scenes with him by this point to know he has abs that would make any athlete weep with envy. But he doesn't really feel attraction towards Shindo. It's the opposite, really. Don't touch me, Bakugou thinks. Shindo leans closer. Don't touch me. Get the fuck away from me. I'm going to kill you. A hand lands against Bakugou's shoulder, but instead of jumping up, getting away, he relaxes into the touch in a way he hasn't in weeks. He knows this touch. He doesn't hate it. Hey, a voice says somewhere above him. The hand on his shoulder squeezes. What's going on here? The voice isn't accusing, just mildly curious. The person steps closer, and Bakugou can feel the reverberation of their voice through his chest against his own back. Shindo glances up, eyes widening, and then a smile blooming wide on his face. "Oh-ho," he says, like he's just won some kind of lottery. "The boyfriend? This is unexpected." Is it? The person standing behind Bakugou laughs bashfully. When he speaks again, his voice is full of confidence. I mean, of course I'd come see my boyfriend the first chance I got. And Bakugou leans back, feels the hot line of contact against his back, and his lips pull into a savage, satisfied grin.
Fuck off, Shindo,
he says without even looking behind him. There's nothing about this touch, this voice, that he could possibly misinterpret. He knows exactly who's standing behind him. Because Kirishima is here, and Bakugou doesn't want to share him with anyone else. All right, friends, thank you so much. This chapter's song is Burn Your Life Down by Bleachers. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. I hope you enjoyed more of like a Bakugou-centric chapter, because we haven't really gotten that. Most of the chapters have been very much from Kirishima's point of view, and I know that I really enjoyed this one the first time that I read this, really getting like how obsessed with Kirishima Bakugou truly is, because you really don't fully grasp it with the whole thing being from Kirishima's point of view, and I just love that for them. I also love like the acting scene at the very end when Kirishima shows up. I love that too. So I hope that you guys will come back for this next chapter, as we're going to flip back to Kirishima's point of view, and kind of almost like not a replay of like the same chapter, but kind of like we had Bakugou and everything that was going on with him. The next chapter is Kirishima and everything that was going on with him while he was on tour. So I hope that you will come back and join me for that. And if you do, I'll see you next time.